everyone. So I am Sourav. I do multiple roles in MathCo. Actually, I lead R&D, where basically my role is to look into emerging technologies and make useful offerings for our customers. And secondly, I also build the platform where called Nucleus that we are essentially looking into problems that we solve and bringing abstractions into our platform so that next time we solve the problem, it becomes easier and cost-effective for our customers to solve. My background has been in data science for about 20 years roughly now. Before this, I was part of Cisco, QB, Australia, to name a few organizations. Today, I'm going to talk about basically, we are working with a lot of our customers on some of these GenAI applications in different industries. And now all the applications are more or less going towards production, or there is adoption among users. It's going from prototypes to actual real applications. So some of our experience building these applications, I want to share, and hopefully this resonates with some of you here, right? Okay, yeah. So just a bit about my company, MathCo. We are one of the largest data and analytics professional services provider. We work with mostly US-based and Europe-based customers, 60 plus Fortune 500 customers. So we have some of the famous names you have heard about, like Walmart, Kraft, Mars, those kinds of as our customers. Around 1,500 people, company, and offering services across data analytics, engineering, generative AI, and also adoption advisory services. So let's talk about Gen AI, right? So broadly, I mean, we work a lot across consumer goods industry, healthcare, specifically pharma, in the US. So a lot of the examples that I talk about will be from those industries. But broadly, like, we can categorize our problems into two categories. One is open-ended conversational assistants, where people can ask questions about their business and get answers from their data. So some examples are in the pharma industry. We have developed assistants for reps. So they have like thousands, sometimes 10,000s of reps who actually have to talk to doctors and engage with doctors and influence them to prescribe their medicines. And to do that, they need to answer questions like, hey, when did I meet X doctor last? What was the last point of discussion? How do I address concerns about side effects of my so-and-so drug and things like that? So a lot of different kind of questions that needed help in preparing for those meetings. And the idea of these assistants is to make them more productive so that they can make more calls and better calls with the doctors, right? Another use case in this area is like, which we have implemented for multiple clients, is like in this organization there are like lots of data in form of tables, SQL tables. Some of them have 10,000 plus tables, and when somebody needs to start an analysis, they need to actually understand where to get the data from first. Okay, so that depends a lot on tribal knowledge of SMEs. Sometimes data catalogs may or may not be completely populated. So we have built assistants where essentially, if you want, like, hey, I want patient activity data for some diseases in this. For a particular company, where to find the data, the assistant will suggest the relevant tables along with the relevant columns and also metadata around it to help that ease that process. I won't go to all of them. There are some things that we do a lot of work across marketing, brand insights, and things like that. The next category of problems is like essentially where LLMs are helping convert unstructured data to some sort of a structured data, and then further integration with the workflow. Some examples is like we work with some of the one or two big railways client in the US, they operate freight for car companies. So Toyota cars move in their trains across the US from factories to distribution. For them, they have a lot of contracts with those companies, and those contracts can have things like about insurance, payment terms, legal terms, and then what we do is extract, look into those contracts and extract structured data around like what was the payment term, when is the contract up for renewal, what is the insurance clauses, what is the sum assured that is covered for, things like that, so that when there is a legal issue or an invoice comes to them, it becomes easy for procurement in those places to basically quickly audit the contract and figure out and really question the contract there, right? And understand whether the invoice is valid or not, payment is valid or not, what are the insurance obligations. So these things were being done earlier. I think LLMs have made them far more easy and accurate in some ways. Another use case is around donor health analyzer, which is basically when somebody expires or passes away, they donate the organ, and when they donate the organ, for the organ to be accepted, it needs to go through certain criteria. So medical doctors have to review the organ health through a number of tests about that organ, and also the person's lifetime history and about their medical history. So that is, I mean, as you can imagine, there's a lot of reports that somebody has to go through. So what we are doing is simplifying that process so that doctors have access to a well-curated report, highlighting parameters saying that whether this guy has history of XYZ disease or not. They know what to look for. We just help them assist in that process by simplifying, by going through those documents using LLMs, and also summarizing certain things so that review process becomes easier for them. So yeah, there are a few more examples, but moving on. So what has been working for us so far, like in all of these implementations? So one is obviously with Gen AI, prototyping has become super easy. So a lot of people are coming up with new ideas, new concepts. Creating concepts and giving shape to those ideas in some ways is very easy. We do a lot of these concepts as part of our proposals, pitches, and even building the roadmap for some of our customers. So it's easy to create a concept, take an idea to a concept, working concept. What we have noticed is there is higher success rate in internal use cases to these companies. So what that means is when the use case, the user base is internal to the company, that has got more adoption versus exposing, and companies are still a bit more careful about exposing LLM applications to their own customer bases because of concerns with, I think all of you know, hallucinations and ethics issues and things like that. So for internally this thing, at least if something goes wrong, it is guarded within that company and the damage can be limited. So there's more adoption in those areas. And then it is helping improve existing workflows quite a lot. So a lot of our use cases are customers have dashboards built and dashboards are not getting adopted. Just putting, and the reason they're not getting adopted is because dashboard doesn't answer all the questions, because dashboard can answer a specific set of questions, but the data is there. So putting a bot on top of that helps addressing some of those other questions that were not getting answered, and that is driving more adoption for some of those existing dashboards. Secondly, the rep use case which I talked about, the information lies across 10 different systems. And there's valuable information, but nobody really uses all of them. Maybe one or two are getting used. But putting it in one place where people can question with all those systems is driving adoption of those systems also. Lastly, so far at least, most of our use cases have been on foundation models from some of the paid API providers. And the reason is because it gets us moving faster and at least helps us experiment and without having too much of infra overhead. But now we are seeing a lot of our customers getting now they know what the use case is, and it's gone to production, and it is scaling. They're asking for how to go open source and can we even build the models. And with DeepSeek, it has even there's a surge now in open source models. And then so far fine tuning hasn't worked for us much. We haven't felt the need to, and secondly, it's all about data. So just getting the right data to fine tune has been a challenge. But out of the box, foundation models are getting better. They have done a good job, but we are still exploring that area for some use cases. Now I'll talk a bit about doing the process, what works and what doesn't work, some of the challenges. And this may be obvious, and these things, the things about kickstarting the GenAI project may not necessarily may actually be true for most of other projects also. But essentially, when we start a project, identifying the right use case, etc., is paramount, because some clients will come up with very abstract requests, something like, hey, I want an assistant that can provide insights for all my data. But making it more specific is what the first phase of a project is a lot about. So we have developed frameworks where we can essentially guide them to the journey, categorize questions into levels of difficulties, and say that, hey, phase 1 can answer these questions, phase 2 can answer these questions, things like that. So basically structuring and scoping the problem so that we can get accurate results. Then involving users early in the conceptualization phase is important, because we have burned some time in some of those use cases trying to perfect, and LLM use cases will never be perfect. They will always have that some amount of error. So we spent a lot of time perfecting it without putting it in front of users, and then we realized users want something else. So that's also happened in some cases. So getting users early, getting feedback, and improving the system is critical. Build versus why. Not everything needs to be built. So we have actually gone and told some clients, maybe if you want to build a knowledge repository which connects to all your documents, there are good products available out there. Why do you want to even build something custom? And then getting to quick proof of concept is important, because again, some of those ideas are very ambitious, sometimes abstract. Conceptualizing and getting to some good prototypes and see whether it can even work in reality or not, and doing it fast is super important. When we are going into this application building, UX is also super important, and the reason is because unlike traditional software systems, outputs are not deterministic. Outputs are probabilistic, so there will always be some amount of uncontrollables in the output, to say. So we have mitigated this by providing things like ability to edit, displaying sources, like when we generate insights on graphs, we show the SQL query. When we generate insights from say PowerPoints or slides or PDFs, we show which document it is referring to answer the question, to build trust in the system. When we generate images, right, rather than generating one image, we generate best of 3, so that there's options to choose from. Maybe one of them will work. Then users don't know how to, what's the best way to prompt. So a lot of our assistants will have some way to guide the users towards what questions to ask, maybe even seed some questions in the beginning, and also have certain inbuilt checks to deflect out of scope questions. I'll come to more about that. Then outputs could be delayed, because some of these typically if there are multiple agents involved, multiple LLM calls involved, will take time. So the wait times are high. And to do that, streaming helps, obviously, so that you can show the agent's reasoning process, like the way some of the open software also do. And then if there are multi-steps, there asynchronous processing helps. And again, lastly, taking this concept further, some of these assistants, what we are now debating is whether they should even be chat assistants or not, because they are performing complex tasks. where the questions needs like 3-4 steps to answer, and it takes time. So there's no point making the user wait. Maybe the right interface is not a chatbot; it's something else. So there's a quote from the founder of LangChain here, which I found interesting, where they're looking into something called ambient agents, where the agent runs in the background, and the user is not forced to wait, and it completes the task, and then essentially the output comes to the user. So that's some paradigm we are exploring right now, how to go about it. Next, I think pre-processing is also needed for Gen AI. Just because AI has a lot of knowledge doesn't mean that data pre-processing is gone. So if you feed null data into a SQL model, a column has a null values, you will get bad answers. Then fine-tuning models is all about curating and pre-processing data. So I'll give you an example of a RAG use case. So in the pharma industry, there's a lot of work around getting insights and doing Q&A on market research documents. So they have slides which are like which contains information about market research, some things about the competitors, like whether a drug is working in injectables or orals, what age group is benefiting most. Those kind of research is there, and that is done by some agencies, and those decks are like 60, 100-page decks, and they have several of those decks. And now they want to do Q&A on that. So for that, we have tried putting the slide directly into a multimodal model, and it just doesn't work. Like the accuracies are low. So what we had to do, and what worked, or still work in progress, I would say, is like taking the slide, converting it into a JSON, structured JSON, and passing it to the LLM. So the JSON basically has like 4 components roughly. The first part is about getting. So if you are on slide 16 here, some context from slide say 14, 13, and 17, 18 to give like what's the overall context of the doc rather than just that one slide. Then the content of the slide, we had to. So a slide can have smart arts, grouped objects, if you have worked on PowerPoints, images and everything. So we had to ungroup grouped objects, deal with smart arts differently, and essentially process these through a multimodal model, and we deal with charts separately, because we have seen that reading charts, it's not always accurate. So we take the PowerPoint charts actual data behind it, and then sort of process it separately and then put it in that slide context. So there's like 2-3 layers of processing going on there. And if there are like hundreds of slides, each slide's having hundreds of PowerPoints, each PowerPoint having 60-odd slide, the retrieval becomes tricky. So to guide the retrieval, it needs metadata. So we use LLM to generate metadata about each slide. So this slide is about brand insight, this slide is about disease, something like that. So that when the right question comes, it goes to the metadata first, and then retrieves from and hits the metadata first, and then retrieves from only those sort of specific slides there. That makes it faster and more accurate. And then lastly, number 4 is obviously this slides, another summary goes for the next slide as context. So this much pre-processing has to be done, and we have done this recurringly and got better at that for this kind of use cases to process Q&A for slides. Now, after pre-processing context, I think getting so we do a lot of text to SQL generation, text to Python generation kind of use cases, where basically you have natural language commands and LLM generates the query or the code and comes back with an answer. So out of the box, it's relatively easy to do, but where the struggle is contextualizing it to the enterprise context. And we have tried to categorize into 4 or 5 types of context. One is the simple metadata about the data. So metadata can be like column names, column values, description of tables, things like that. So these things need to go into the LLM's prompt somehow to make it better. Then metrics and KPIs. So each of these companies have their custom metrics. So if you look at ACV, an example, it could be annual contract value, it could be something else like the formula is here. So we pass that the metric definition formula as a hint to the LLM in the prompt. Then there is business workflow, like when you take actions using the bot. So sometimes the question, it may not be a question, it could be a command saying that update my promotion workflow. In the retail industry, update my promotion calendar. In the retail industry, this is very common where basically what days should I run promotion to maximize my impact is the problem. So it has to go and update the calendar that this day, this much discount, this day, this much discount. So that command needs context about, okay, when I give this command, which tables need to get updated with what value for the downstream system to basically take it and use it in some ways. Then there is org and user persona, like who has access to what data needs to be respected, number one. And number two, sometimes users come and ask sales for my brand. And what is my is not clear, so that my, to disambiguate that my, we have to give the org persona or the user persona so that it can actually infer that you are a category manager for this category and then provide sales info for that category. Lastly, it is data and analytics tools. I've kept it in the context because like a lot of times we build those, we would have done the analytics or the model building for them. So like for example, we do a lot of spend optimization, marketing spend optimization models for some of the consumer companies. And now we are building bots on top of that, which basically is, you can go and say, hey, if I increase my spends on this particular channel by 10%, what is the effect of sales? Or optimize my budget. So optimize my spend so that I can get a sales of $10 million extra, something like that. So that needs to invoke either a regression model or a optimizer that we would have already built for their customer, and then this goes to the LLM, and LLM basically goes and invokes it. It's really a tool, but I've kept it in the context for now. But these, and there are various ways of processing this context, right? So one is simply putting it in the prompt, but if the context becomes large, we have to do a RAG to identify the relevant context for the question and then essentially construct the prompt accordingly. Sometimes we have also had to create knowledge graphs. So when we had to discover lots of tables and columns, we had to create the relationship between tables and columns. So that if I search a column, I need to essentially see what table it belongs, and then so on and so forth. So context onboarding is one type of thing, and then context, taking that context and how to make use them to make answers relevant is the next class of things which we end up doing. Then, I think more and more we are seeing the LLM applications are becoming super complex, and that has implications which I will come to. But essentially, this is one of the things which I was talking about, about pharma reps, and in this case, what happens is like this is connected to at least 6 or 7 different types of systems, and each of them have like 2 or 3 APIs, so at least 30 APIs calls, and then some answers lie in some document. So there's text to API, text to SQL, text to document, 3 types of agent with different subtools, which is the different APIs, right? So here, like let's take an example of a question where what is the sales for say a drug Crocin by some doctor X, and when did I last meet him? So this is like 2 questions. Number 1 here, because the sales for somebody is in the sales application. When did I last meet him is in the call planning application. So it needs to invoke 2 different APIs. So the LLM, what it needs to do is plan and first like clarify and break down. So when I say sales, Sales for what time frame, right? Is it last year, last month, last 3 months? So that's first thing that the LLM has to do, and then breaking it down into 2 different questions. Like, there's a question about sales, there's a question about when did I last meet him. Then after all that, it has to pass some compliance checks. So you may be asking questions that are like compliance violation for that particular company. You may also be asking, you may not have access to that particular doctor's data for all you know. So those checks has to be done. And then like in a simple world, it could probably have been a function calling where you would have routed it to the right API, but because there are so many APIs here, it just doesn't work. The LLM gets confused as to what tool to call. And so we had to build a intent classification model, which basically takes the question and classifies the intent, like say, hey, it is a sales question, hey, it is a call-related question, hey, it is a product-related question, and then route it to the right API. And then lastly, once you've routed it to the right API, you need to identify the entities. Which in this case, the entity could be like the medicine name, the doctor's name, and time frame, and then take those as the parameters and essentially make the API call. Take all those outputs of the API, summarize, and update the DB as memory so that the next question has this as a context. Now, all this is good. It works, but it takes time. So our engineers have done the best they can, and it still takes 40 seconds, where the expectation is around 15 seconds. So what we had to do is essentially now understand common questions and give options. So we know sales questions, related questions come very often. We know when did I last meet the doctor kind of question comes very often. So we have basically given those as options in the bot as you enter, so that the question is very specific, and you can just bypass all those compliance check, intent classification, et cetera, because I know all of that and pre-process it and directly just query. So that's kind of like where we went on the journey to making it super complex, it still is, and then simplifying it to make things fast. But that also brings me to my earlier point about should the UX really be a chatbot for this? And should you really expect like 15 seconds latency? Because in the current world, you're probably having to go through 5 different systems. It anyways takes a few minutes or maybe an hour sometimes. So why can't the answer be like, hey, from the bot be like, hey, let me wait, please wait, I'll send the report to your email or something like that. Or maybe an email. The bot could be an email where I email to a bot and the bot emails me the answer for the question. But yeah, I mean, so we are building this kind of planning, orchestrating agents right now. There are some more advanced systems where we are looking into if agents can reason and do back and forth among them or not. But yeah, that's still a work in progress. Yeah. So now the next thing that we are seeing is testing. And as you can imagine, the number of moving pieces in the kind of applications which I talked about last, there are too many. Like the planner needs to work well, the question breaking down needs to happen, API call needs to happen correctly, API needs to get the right parameters. So when a system like that has so many agents, the testing is becomes complex. So we have seen like for almost all of this thing, we are having to build high quality ground truth data ourselves. Well, LLM as a judge can help, but if you put it in the workflow, it again introduces one round of latency, one more LLM call, increases cost. And outside the workflow, we have actually used LLM to generate questions and generate answers so that we can test. But again, those quality of those questions are not that nuanced. So we almost always have human-generated questions to test these applications on. Now, because these are multi-agent systems, and sometimes, so it needs testing at various levels. The whole system, first and foremost, needs to be tested, and then you need to have a lineage of all the agents' output so that you know which agent breaks and where is it failing, if at all it is failing. So we have built some internal tools to do that. If you can, like, for example, give questions and answers, it can give you the log of what each agent is doing so that you have traceability. Then as we go to production with these systems, we would have tested on some LLM generated plus human generated data, but when users ask the question, they can ask anything. And then the accuracy drifts. So question drift has been a real challenge in production. We have ways to measure it through, like, comparing embeddings between test questions and the production questions and things like that. But we right now, I don't think there's a like a very elegant solution to some of the solutions we have implemented. As, like, in the planner stage, we block some questions which are out of scope questions. So we know that this question can't be answered with the given data that you have. So we'll deflect it. Then again, providing clear options of these are the kind of questions it can answer, this is the kind of question it can't answer. So when you open the bot, you will have, please ask me this kind of questions only. So those things help. But in production systems, it really drifts, and where, like, the getting feedbacks from users, etc., improving the system continuously is like a continuous journey for us. Lastly, upgrading model versions, right? So that creates its own challenges. So entire system and all the prompts have to be tested, and that creates that's another testing thing which we do whenever there's a model has to be upgraded. So now, for example, we are testing some of our systems in using DeepSeek. What we learned is that with GPT, we gave certain context, as I said, to the model, but because DeepSeek has reasoning capabilities now, it sort of bypasses the context and tries to do its own reasoning. So I gave a definition of a product to DeepSeek, and then DeepSeek just ignored it and created its own definition. Those kind of things happen when models change in advance. So it's a continuous journey. I think it is a very evolving field, and there are lots of toolings that are coming out of all that, and it is going to come out frameworks and tools to ease the process of testing these kind of multi-agent applications. So what we have done over the last like maybe 2 years or so is essentially created some reusable modules as and when we learn from our different client work that we do, and essentially created a reusable sort of modules in our platform. So it has a marketplace of agents. So we get that PowerPoint question very often, like question answer from like PowerPoints, text to SQL, text to Python coding we get very often. So we have like agents, and they're contextualized to different industries. So text to SQL will have different versions for the pharma industry, for the retail industry, and so on and so forth. We have some orchestrators which basically have modules around how to break down questions, how to ask clarifying questions. We're looking into frameworks like Autogen and things like that also, which can help in better reasoning and planning. We have reusable code base in React for the interface. So bot building is like super easy for us. We can get to bot fairly quickly that way. Getting intelligence to the bot is the harder problem. We built integrations because a lot of our clients want to see their bot on their existing systems. Sometimes it could be on top of a Tableau dashboard, so we have integrations to Tableau. Sometimes it could be on top of Power BI also, right? So we have multiple such integrations with different systems. And then testing, we have some reusable code base to ease the entire testing process, where humans can upload test data with some ground truth, and the entire process of how the LLM arrived at what its answer is, and some accuracy metrics comes up with it. So yeah, these are some of the things that we have worked. I want to also touch upon the topic of talent a bit, because with AI, I think the nature of talent, I don't know, I wouldn't call it as shifted. The core fundamentals are still intact, but I'll break it into 3 phases. Like, one is the concept phase, where it is typically an AI engineer building the concept with somebody who understands the business problem well. Then it's the MVP, which is about getting something in front of the users. So there we will need designers to actually design the interface, AI engineers, AI product manager is becoming important. And I think the way I define it is somebody who understands user needs, also understands limitations of LLM, and able to educate people about what it can do, and can be like a thought partner to our clients in terms of how to conceptualize the LLM application. So that, and then software development skills for that is super important for getting things like that application that I showed you. In the scaling phase, again, the same skill sets, maybe more of that is needed, but data engineers and testers are new skill set that we have seen. Because testing is an ongoing process. As usage increases, different types of question comes, and we have to always keep on testing for any updates that we make to the model. And data engineers, because again, the foundations and the pipelines have to be built, so for it to handle more use cases and more types of questions. And this is all complemented with like a Gen AI focused training that we have created internally with our in-house accelerators. So yeah, a lot of things. Just to wrap up my talk here, this is something just copied from the AgileLLM.org blog. It's a good blog. If you haven't read, I would suggest reading it. But what it says is essentially there are like 5-6 different types of complications you will encounter for building any of these Gen AI systems. It needs to be reliable, it needs to be harmless, it needs to be useful and scalable, and so on and so forth. I don't think all things can be solved at once. So prioritize at least 2 or 3 things that you want to go for. Maybe accuracy is the most important thing. Maybe reliability, harmlessness is the most important thing. Prioritize and just go for it. Otherwise, you will never start. And over time, things as models become better and the agents become better, it will probably work out. So yeah, I think that's all I have. Thanks.